Hi, it's Shelby from Quarantine. So today I will be talking about ARP cache spoofing. So, what are the challenges that are being addressed? So, Address Resolution Protocol, ARP. So, our textbook defines ARP as a mechanism to translate IP addresses to linked layer addresses. So, how does it work? So, each host and router has an ARP table that contains mapping of IP addresses to MAC addresses. Every time a host requests a MAC address, it checks its ARP cache to see if there's mapping to destination already, if this mapping to the destination already exists. So what happens if there is no mapping? So the sender will construct a ARP packet. The new IP address is passed to an ARP query packet to the adapter, along with indication that the adapter should send the packet into a linked layer frame so that it can be broadcasted to the other adapters in the subnet. Each adapter will pass the packet to its ARP module and check to see if the IP address matches the destination address. The ARP module with the match will send a response ARP packet with the mapping information. So, what is ARP cache poisoning and or ARP cache spoofing? So, in my research paper, it says that cache spoofing is the most common attack that can be launched from within a network and could have a very high destruction profile. And I also did some research about specifically ARP cache poisoning and ARP cache spoofing because the article doesn't give a direct definition on what this is. So on a website called Tech Target, it said that the ARP cache poisoning and ARP cache spoofing, they're interchangeable, and that it is a device attack in which a hacker broadcasts false ARP messages over a LAN in order to link an attacker's MAC address with the IP address of a legitimate computer of server within the network. So there was also this photo that is seen on this page that was in the website, and it shows how how it overall works with the MAC address and also the IP address and the conversion with the ARP. Okay, so how is computer networking relevant to this challenge? So we briefly talked about ARP in chapter 6 of the textbook, and it touched on how ARP straddles the boundary between link layer and network layer. For link layer, ARP is encapsulated with a link layer frame when preparing to be broadcasted to other adapters. And for the network layer, it contains network layer addresses, and I believe this is the MAC address that it is containing. And it also talked about subnets and how important subnets are to the ARP. And throughout the entire course, we have been talking about subnets and how they work within a networking system. And so ARP only works within the same subnet, and it cannot resolve an IP address for other hosts or routers outside the subnet. So our textbook actually touches on this specific topic in how if you are in California and you're trying to get to a subnet that might be in Indiana, it's not going to work out because it is outside, and this ARP is not going to be able to use this outside subnet situation because it is not within its own personal subnet. And so the photo that you see there is actually very similar to the one before, but it's from our textbook, and so it shows the translation from IP to MAC and how different they do look, but how that flow works between the subnet and also the individual users' computers. Okay, so why is this challenge important? This challenge is important because it deals with companies and the different companies' networks. And so companies tend to focus on attacks from outside systems, when it is also important to focus on attacks that are happening to their system from inside. And since ARP is an inside system situation, they should really be trying to look into how to handle inside problems. Okay, so what research is being done regarding this challenge? So the article that I chose talked about the use of forensic investigation when dealing with ARP cache spoofing. And what I mean by this is how to convict someone that has attacked an ARP with this ARP cache spoofing, because frankly, it's kind of hard to do that with computers and how the law is. So being able to get hard evidence. So the article talked about 2 security features that they use to stop attacks. The first security feature is dynamic host configuration protocol spoofing or snooping. So according to the article or the research paper, the DHC snooping protects the network by allowing the switch to accept DHCP response messages only from the authorized servers connected to the trusted interfaces in the switch. So this is saying that it will only allow authorized servers or interfaces. So the second security measure was the dynamic ARP inspection. According to the research paper, once again, the DAI helps prevent ARP poisoning and other ARP-based attacks by intercepting and verifying the authenticity of any ARP or ICMP request reply. So with these 2 different security measures in mind, the authors of the research paper went into depth of the differences between what a normal network flow looks like versus a network flow that is under attack, and how they solve this under attack network flow with their security measures. So the authors used Wireshark Intop, TCP dump, and TCP stat to prove the difference in these, with the difference that these security measures made, and also to provide techniques that can be used in forensic investigations. So if you look closely at the photo, it is of Wireshark, and on the lower one, you can see that the victim's IP address is being posted multiple times, to where on the top one, it's not happening, it's not duplicating. Because like I said earlier, this ARP cache snoop is it is a device attack where it is the attackers are broadcasting this over the LAN multiple times, and so as you can see, it is actually physically happening in that photo. Okay, so why is it interesting to me personally? I find this interesting because it's really crossing over computer science with law, or forensic investigation to be specific. I personally don't want to be a forensic scientist or none of that, but I think it's interesting because I personally feel like the law is so far behind technology, because technology advances so quickly, so it's hard to keep up with this. And being able to have this technology to catch attackers and be used in the court would be amazing, and it could help our legal system get further advanced that coincides with our law. Okay, so how does the challenge relate to the field trip that we went to? So, as we know, MISO is a fairly large company, so it would be vital for them to use this method in order to practice network safety. And what I mean by that is, as a company, it's most likely that they are more focused on the outside attacks and preparing for something like that. Of course, I'm unsure if they are even prepared for an inside attack, but it's good to have measures in place to be prepared for those inside attacks. So I do think it's very important for MISO to understand the possibility of being under attack from an inside job. And yeah, so that is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.